You have to draw a line in the sand. You have to build some boundaries.
Maybe I'm not the right one for it.
I'm to a point where I don't want to try anymore.
You are hurting yourself. This is something we see regularly.
What is someone in your life fighting for? And how can you be there for them?
All right, let's do a final question here.
Okay.
We have a couple more minutes. It goes, I was told of my wife's affair in January of 2017. And it had been going on since November of 2016, but turned physical in January, and quite quickly it became obvious that staying in the marital home was not an option for my children and me, and with my wife's reluctance to move out and with the atmosphere getting more and more toxic, I moved into a new home in February 2017. I have since then been working every day on my pies, which Dr. Beam will explain in just a minute, and continue to be a safe place for her to vent off about anything except the affair. I want to save my marriage, but I am now in limbo as there seems to be a normality to our lives. Once I moved out of our home, the lover moved in and is now encamped in my home with my wife and our children, and they seem to be living the life that we once were. We, my wife and I, are in contact constantly due to handovers with the children, but I feel I'm quickly becoming her best friend. How can I progress this once again and get her to see me as her husband and not her best friend?
This is a very tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to chastise or beat up people for what they've already done. So please don't hear what I'm about to say in terms of you did all the wrong things. But for all those others, in addition to the person who asked this question who are out there, my first suggestion, and again, I realize this is too late for you, but let me do it for other people. My first suggestion is do not move out of the home, particularly if you're a male, but either one of you. Believe it or not, based on what I read, you understand I'm not an attorney. I have no legal training whatsoever. And I also understand that laws are different by state, and even within a state can differ by county, by city, those kinds of things like that. So I'm not trying to give you legal advice. But based on what I read online, if you, particularly the husband, if you move out of the home, there's certain things that you give up when it comes to if the marriage winds up ending. Now, again, I'm not trying to beat up the guy who wrote this question. This is for everybody else out there. He said, I felt like I had to move out for the sake of my children and so forth and so on. And I certainly don't know his situation. And if I'd known it, I might have been saying, well, I get it. I think I'd do the same thing. But in general, we say, not a good idea. You stay in the home. You might be saying, okay, what if my spouse is telling me to leave? Well, if they get whatever legalese they need to get to make you leave, that's one thing. But just saying, I want you out of the house doesn't mean that you have to go. There's another thing about that. When you finally separate, if you do, then everything seems to get a little better immediately. For both sides, typically. You say, why? Because of the fact that whatever tension existed because of the problem diminishes if you're not having to see each other and live in the same house. So if you move down the street to an apartment or across town to an apartment or whatever, go back and move in with mom and dad, whatever you do, then the fact that you're not together, not facing each other every day, reduces that tension, which makes things better in a sense. You haven't really fixed anything. It's just less tense. It's less problematic. And therefore, some people at that point are like, why should I try to fix this thing? Because I've already felt some relief just by separating, so why go through all the misery of and the agony of trying to put this back together the right way? So we generally recommend that you separate only if somebody's in jeopardy. For example, if you're being beaten, if your life's being threatened, if your kids are being threatened in some fashion, then getting apart from each other makes all the sense in the world, because you got to make sure that everybody's safe, either physically safe, emotionally safe, that kind of thing. We'll recommend no recommendation otherwise. Okay, that doesn't answer any of his question, and I'm sorry if that sounds like I'm getting on to you. I just want to give that general advice out there for people. And as Kimberly often says, what we teach, you can get 80% of what you need to do. Sometimes the 20% for your specifics, you have to figure out for yourself. All right, now, in this situation, you have moved out, you're still being friendly with your wife, you're still communicating with each other, but the lover has moved into the house. He has assumed your position. I think you phrase it as it's as if he's assumed your position. It sounds like it's more than as if. It sounds like he really has assumed your position. And the fact that you're being friendly with your wife in that situation, here's the pro to that and here's the con to that. The pro to that is, okay, at least you're having communication, so potentially you have a way to fix this thing because you're still talking to each other. But the con to that in your situation is, but she's living with the guy in your home with your children, which makes it not highly likely that having communication with you is going to make this any better. In other words, how is communicating with you, the fact that you're friendly and talk to each other as you swap kids out and etc., how is that going to make any difference in what she's got going for her right there? I've got my home, I've got my kids, I've got my lover, I've got everything I want. Even my husband's not giving me trouble. Why should I do anything different? Now, I can't tell you what to do with your life. You have to make your own decisions. We don't have to live with the consequences of what you do, therefore we will not tell you what to do. We'll teach you the principles, but you've got to make your own decisions. But in my opinion, based on what you're describing here, of course I don't know anything else about it except what you've described here, but based on what you've described here, this situation is pretty bad. And if it were I'd go ahead and see an attorney. I'd tell the attorney everything. My wife had the affair, I'm the one who moved out, now the affair partner's moved in. What can I do? And it may be, again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm certainly not an attorney, and it's not my right to tell you what to do. But the attorney may give you the advice of, well, in this situation, the only way that anything's going to change in any shape, fashion, or form is if you go ahead and start legal action against your wife. I don't know what the laws are where you live. I don't know whether the law will make him leave that home or not, as long as you guys are still married. I don't know if that'll happen. If so, your attorney can tell you. I don't know if what you'll have to do is go ahead and start divorce proceedings. I don't know what you do next. But I'm telling you that the situation that you're in, at least from what you've described, does not appear to me to be fixable if you allow it to continue as it is now. Now again, I'm not trying to get on to you for what you've done so far. You did the best you know how to do. But I think your decisions thus far have not worked to your advantage. Therefore, get the right kind of legal help to make sure that the decisions you make from this point on are to your advantage.
Yeah, that is a tricky situation. One of those where a coach would be helpful, for sure.
A coach can help you think through the way you're interacting with your wife.
Right.
Our coaches certainly aren't going to help you with anything having to do with legalese.
No.
Because that's not who and what we are.
Mm-mm.
But if you want to ask or work with one of our coaches about, this is how I'm interacting with my wife, how can I do that better? How can I make sure I'm not messing up things? Then yeah, call and get an appointment with one of our coaches who can help you with that. They help you with the relationship. And they can also help you think through the relationship with your children. But they won't give you any kind of counselor advice when it comes to legality, just as I myself will not either.
Right. And even if you're at a place where you need to work on yourself individually to get to a place where you're strong again, your self-esteem comes back. We see a lot that when there's a situation like this where one spouse wants out, and the more one spouse wants out, the more it can hurt the self-esteem, the confidence, the overall attitude of the person who's wanting to save the marriage. We can help you with that too.
Right. Now, if it were I, and we're talking to my attorney, the first thing I'd be saying is there any way to get that man out of my house? And if there is, that's what I'd go for. And if you're thinking, well, that's really going to tick her off and she's going to be furious at me, the answer to that is in all likelihood she will be. So you have to make a decision. Which would you rather have? Him living there in apparent bliss, or your wife being ticked off with you and him being gone? And you got to decide which is the better for your children, which is the better for you, and which is the most likely to create a potential of you guys getting back together. And in my opinion, him being in there where they've got nothing to change because they've got everything they want is not in your favor. Her being furious is not in your favor either. But at least if he's not in the house, may have a different level of approach to this than if he's still there. But hey, talk to the attorney, and it is your decision.
Overall, no matter what situation that you or your marriage is in right now, we want you to know that, number one, we're here for you. Whatever step of the journey you're on, we want to encourage you. We want to give you hope that even if it's absolutely hopeless and you feel helpless and like there's nothing there, then you are in the right place with us. We see marriages saved all the time where everyone thought there was no hope, that there was no chance. And if you're listening and you're thinking, well, my marriage isn't that bad, well, the good news is if we can save marriages that are that far gone, then yours will be a piece of cake. So we can help it however we can.
Plus, in future versions of this, as we do additions, I should say, of this, we're glad to answer questions about anything to do with relationships, all the way from dating through divorce, anything in between. So you don't have to be in trouble to send your questions in.
Absolutely.
Any questions you have about relationships, we'll do our best to help you with.
Absolutely. If you want to connect with us, you can always call us at 866-903-0990. This episode and all of the episodes we have are also going to be made into our podcast. So you can go to iTunes or Google Play, whether you're iPhone or Android user, and subscribe to Marriage Radio. So that's Marriage Radio on iTunes, Marriage Radio on Google Play, and you can get all of the episodes that we have that we'll be uploading. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel where you'll see these come up every single Monday, and you'll see bonus content that we post throughout the week as well. And as always, you can visit us at marriagehelper.com. And we're so glad that you joined us today. Remember to send in your questions to askjoe, ASKJOE, at marriagehelper.com. A special thanks to you. A special thanks to our awesome videographer who's made all of this happen and without a hitch. He's absolutely incredible. So way to go, Jesse. But
that's Jesse True, if you'd like to know.
Yes.
Really good guy.
He's awesome. So glad to have him on our team. If we can help you this week, we want to. And until next time, have an awesome week. Thank you, Dr. Beam.
Thank you. Have a good day.